Welcome to episode 88 of the Walking Dead TV podcast. I'm Jordan from Jersey, and I'm joined tonight by Brad Milo, Jim Gates, and Russell Latham. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing well.
Good. I know this is an audio podcast, but if you can see me, I'm pouring out my 40 for our friend Merle.
Spoiler alert.
And maybe like a quarter of a shot glass for Ben.
Yeah.
I got a funny story. When I'm watching this episode, the DVR was programmed to do something else, which is really strange. I'm not sure what happened. So it cut away from the tail end scene, and I missed like 30 seconds of it. And so I had to wait 2 hours to see the replay to actually see those 30 seconds. Yeah, so I saw Ben get shot, but I never saw him again. And I was like, whatever happened to Ben? Well, then I found out what happened to Ben in the 30 seconds that I got to catch up on 2 hours after it aired. So crazy. I hate when DVRs mess me up, man.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the episode proper, we got a few odds and ends to get to. First off, the Walking Dead Survival Instinct video game is out, and the verdict is that it's not very good. In fact, the verdict is that it's pretty terrible from the reviews I've seen. So stick to the original Walking Dead point-and-click adventure game, which, if you like point-and-click adventure games like I do, is really awesome, and probably stay away from this one unless you just feel like blowing a few bucks on a rental. That is the general consensus I've seen online.
Yeah, the Metacritic score for it is a 37.
Out of 100.
The way to differentiate them, unfortunately, the one with Merle and Daryl is the one that you want to avoid. It's from Activision and from Quantum Dream. The one that you want to seek out that was really excellent, this point-and-click adventure that Jordan's talking about, is available for 360 and PS3 on disc now. That's from Telltale Games, so that's the one you want to play. Unfortunately, the new one, not so good.
It's unfortunate, but hey, we want to give you guys the honest truth for what's out there, and we don't want to just promote it because it's Walking Dead. If the word is it's bad, hey, that's what we're going to tell you. Also, I believe, Bradley, you have some iTunes reviews and a voicemail for us.
Yeah, I've got a couple of new iTunes reviews. Buppy's son says, very appreciative of this podcast. 5 stars. I agree with pretty much all of your hosts. Of all of your views. I pretty much agree with all of your views. Thanks for keeping up with the show and podcasting. I agree that I believe King County will become a Woodbury-type living community. It seems Michonne and Rick may end up in a close platonic relationship as Carl respects her and looks up to her, perhaps.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out after this episode.
Buzz Hote says 4 stars. They know their stuff. Dude with the deep voice is the nerd version of Barry White, because he is. Hey,
not the first time someone has said that, but thank you.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's a very common compliment. A decent listen in the top 5 of Walking Dead podcasts. Thank you for that, and thank you for leaving us reviews on our iTunes page. We appreciate that. I have 2 voicemails. We'll listen to one now, and that deals with last week's episode. It was sent to us before this last episode aired, so let's hear that one now.
Hello, gentlemen. Just listened to your latest show. Good job again. This is Nick from Poughkeepsie. I really hope that we do not see the governor in the next season. I don't like the character at all, and he's not what I was hoping for in terms of sinister, and we're only getting that right now. But I do see a point that they sort of need to build up and show him kind of losing his grip and being more like the governor from the comic book. But I'd really like it if he were eliminated and actually we sort of move on to a whole new scenario for the next season. As much as we circled around and hovered around the farm in the last season, and we're covering between these 2 locations in this season, maybe Rick and the gang could take over Woodbury, or I don't know, the prison hasn't been working out for the gang. So I think that maybe somebody from the inside is going to kill the governor. I'm hoping Martinez, maybe he wants to take over, or Milton finally gets a handle on reality, or Tyrese, he's a likely guy to kill the governor. And Jordan, sir, guys, leave some of the stuff out at the end there. I don't want to know about. I like to think of you guys in one way, and I don't really want to hear about your partying. But it's okay. I like to leave something left to the imagination. Just reveal a little too much TMI. Okay, at the end of your last show. Love you guys. Take care.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would agree with Meg when she says that this governor's not what she wanted. I mean, I understand what she's saying. It's not the comic book governor, and I too don't want to see him next season. I want new things, new stories, new settings. I think to have him appear next season would cheapen the show, cheapen that character. So
now,
anyway.
Would you feel the same if he only showed up once or twice, like maybe at the end of next season, but he wasn't a full-time every episode type deal?
Well, what would be the point in that?
Well, if let's say they don't kill him, but he gets away, and then he shows up kind of on a cliffhanger out of nowhere at the end of next season, and then they finally kill him there.
Or alternately, if Rick's group leaves the prison and they think they're free of the governor finally and things get back to normal, and then he shows up again at the end of next season.
Not saying it's likely to happen. I'm just curious on what you would think.
No, I could live with that. I mean, I think the neat thing about the show is that each season there's a different danger, and I think to move on to a new danger next season would be a good thing. But then to have a callback to this season at the end of next season, that would be fine with me. We might write off the governor thinking that's the last time we'll see him, and then boom, here he is at the end of season 4 or whatever. That'd be fine with me.
I disagree with you guys. I hope he sticks around. I think they've taken their time building him up to this character, and in 2 episodes for him to really get more interesting, for them to just truncate that and kill him off, and then we start something completely new next season. One, I think it's a little cliched. The whole every season has a big bad, or every season has this thing. I'd like to see that kind of broken up a little bit. So I don't know if I want to go through a whole other season with them dangling this plot line and moving that story forward, but I think at least maybe the halfway point, maybe the next half season, if they can carry it forward. But I think he's just now getting to be this really interesting character that they could have a lot of back and forth with going on, and I would hate to see that just kind of truncated.
Yeah, that kind of reflects something that she said too, is that it took the governor a while to get to where he was, that we knew him close to the way we knew him in the graphic novel, with that ferocity and that level of crazy and that level of malice. We really saw it this week, obviously, with him and Merle. But now that the governor is full psycho, now is when he's interesting. I mean, he's more interesting to me now than more. He was trying to be nice guy Philip to Andrew or whatever. And I agree with Russ to kind of discard him now would be a terrible idea. I think because right now is when he's really cool and interesting and just as crazy, if not more so, than Merle was.
I think it's too little, too late. I'm already bored with the governor, and just now that he's starting to be crazy, well, this should have happened halfway through the season. We should have seen him progress to the craziness a little sooner. And I think to drag it out another half season would be a big mistake.
Well, only time will tell. Should we get into the synopsis, gentlemen?
Please.
Alrighty, season 3, episode 15 is entitled "This Sorrowful Life." And if you remember from the end of 2 weeks ago, when we were last at the prison, for an extended period of time, Rick had told Herschel what was really going on with the deal with the governor, about how the governor wanted him shown, and according to the governor, he would let them go free if they handed her over. At the beginning of this episode, Rick has also told Daryl, and so him, Daryl, and Herschel are discussing the offer and whether or not to go ahead with it. And they kind of debate, well, if we're going to do it, if we really think this will work, if we think it's worth the risk, what's the best way to go along with it? So Herschel says he doesn't want to have any part of it, and Daryl seems reluctant, but as normal, he is willing to support Rick, being kind of the muscle of the second in command. Even if he doesn't like the decision, he's going to do his best with it. And he suggests, hey, we're going to need more muscle on this. So this is where Rick goes to Merle for help. Merle has been using his knife arm to tear up mattresses, looking for any drugs, and he can't find any. He says this is probably a very boring prison. And he says he's interested in the development, but he doesn't think Rick has the spine for it. And this is the scene we saw last week during Talking Dead, or at least part of it, where, there's two ways you can read it. One, Merle thinks this is a good idea, and he doesn't believe Rick has the spine for it, or Merle still doesn't believe this is a good idea, and he's trying to play devil's advocate in a way to talk Rick out of it. And even with the way the episode plays out, I still think you could read it either way.
I love the effect he called him officer friendly.
Yeah, which I believe is a callback to the first time they met.
Yeah, I think so. I had a real hard time with Rick going along with turning over Michonne. To me, it kind of shows Rick as a character of lesser intelligence, and it kind of demeans his ability as a leader. Because I think, the whole point, I think, of the face-to-face with the governor was him to get a read on him and figure out what he's all about. This is the same guy that shot the guys in the bar in Nebraska because he knew they were up to no good. His cop instinct kicked over. And for him to think that there's any hope that he's going to let them come out of this alive by giving over Michonne, I just had a real hard time with reconciling that. I know a lot of it's just a plot device, but I think they could have come up with another way to do it. I don't know. There's just something about that I just really had a hard time getting past.
Even if it was just showing Rick to be more reluctant, because it felt like at the end of 2 episodes ago when he was talking to Herschel, he even said, I need you to talk me out of this. But you could tell his heart wasn't in it. He was holding on to the slight bit of hope that maybe this would work, but his heart was not in it.
Well, the way it could have played out, what if Merle had just taken Michonne on his own as to try to make peace himself with the governor? You know what I mean? There are a lot of other ways, like Russell, they could have played out without Rick having to toy with the idea of having to turn over one of his group.
Right.
It seemed like a very un-Rick thing to do. I understand what he's saying.
The thing that bothers me about this scene only bothers me in hindsight after having watched the whole episode. If he's trying to discourage Rick from doing this, then why does he end up doing it himself? Something just doesn't jive there with me. It seemed inconsistent.
Well, he still, like I said, there's two ways to read it, and either he was playing devil's advocate and was saying he was going along with it, but was really trying to turn him away, or he really did think, hey, it's possible this works, but you, Rick, really don't have the spine to do this. Which is what, according to what he tells Daryl, and I think according to what we saw in the whole episode, he really didn't think that Rick had the gusto for it, and honestly, Rick didn't, as we saw throughout the rest of the show.
So he was just trying to discourage Rick so he could end up doing it himself?
You could read it that way, and even in the conversation, I don't remember if it was with Daryl or with Michonne, but how, he's comfortable, according to what he says at that point in the show, he's comfortable with being the bad guy and doing the things that need to be done, but other stronger-willed people aren't willing to do. Which is, it does make him the bad guy, but it also makes him a necessary part of the community in some ways. And I think that was his role in Woodbury in a lot of places, was doing the dirty work. And so he's been used to that now for almost a year. Even though he switched sides, he still sees kind of that opening in this group, in the prison group. Daryl will follow along with what Rick says, but no one is really prepared to be the bad guy like he is.
Merle is like the Wolverine of the group.
Yeah, he just needs a couple more knives. He's getting close.
He's like I didn't even think about him having blades on his
Actually, he's
hand.
like an Age of Apocalypse Wolverine.
He's the guy that will cross the line, that nobody else wants to.
Right. So later on, Merle has a conversation with Daryl where he says he thinks it's hypocrisy for them to hand over Michonne to the governor, since they're already angry at Merle for doing the same thing with Glenn and Maggie, but they're willing to do it now with Michonne. And then as Daryl leaves, or right before Daryl got there, I forget exactly how it plays out, Merle takes the telephone that Rick had been using earlier on in the season to talk to dead people, because he needs the wire to bind up Michonne. Because as he told Rick earlier in the episode, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna need some strong wire to bind your hands, because otherwise she's gonna chew right through it.
This is a good scene between Reedus and Michael Rooker as well. I thought when in that room with the phone, just kind of trying to feel each other out almost. Just like the two actors really had a good. I thought they had some really good moments in the scene.
And if you think about it, this is their last scene together as two humans.
That's true.
This is the last conversation they ever get to have.
Because he kind of questions Daryl's motives as to why he's with Rick and why he's so obedient to Rick, and Daryl questions Merle's entire motive of living pretty much. So I thought it was a good scene between the two.
Right. So Rick is also outside. He's looking for wire to tie Michonne, and he finds some Ethernet cable. When all of a sudden he has another hallucination of Lori on the catwalk, and this time she's not in a white dress, and she's back to her just normal clothes. And in fact, she's even pregnant in the hallucination, and that is enough to snap him into the light of saying, "What am I doing here? This is ridiculous. I can't hand over Michonne." He's kind of got the judging eye of his wife on him, and even though he says out loud, "I know you're not real," he follows the advice of the hallucination anyway, the wordless advice.
He even says you're not real, and then looks up and she's still there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, like I said, he abandons the idea of handing over Michonne, but Merle didn't get this information, and so he takes Michonne to go clear out a corridor in the prison, and when she's busy with some zombies, he knocks her out, ties her up, and they depart the prison. So as soon as they realize that Merle is missing, Daryl decides he's going to go track them because he's the only one
I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt you. Isn't Michonne smarter than this than to know to walk off into a secluded place with the man who kidnapped her? And she strikes me as a smart person, but this was a dumb thing for her to do.
Yeah, I felt like she was being cautious enough, at least in the beginning, but once the zombies came out, that took enough of her attention that she lost sight of his knife hand and he knocked her out.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, that's a little suspicious.
So, like I said, Daryl's going to track them on foot because he's the only real tracker, and we catch up with Merle and Michonne. She is tied up with wire, just like we were told, and Merle's leading her along, and they're talking quite a bit. In fact, we get a pretty good characterization of Michonne here. I thought that they're keeping up with the talkative Michonne that we were introduced to a couple episodes ago. She's still got a sense of humor, and this is the Michonne I think we want to see, although we don't want to see her tied up, even though she does get to kill some zombies even like that. At one point, Merle uses her katana to kill some zombies, and is surprised that she doesn't run off when he's doing this, and she tells him, "Yeah, I'm not going to leave without my sword."
I definitely thought we finally were getting to see the Michonne that we've been wanting to see. I know in a previous episode I was a little concerned that, okay, we got a taste of it, and it's moving in that direction, and I hope they don't stomp it out and go backward with her. And I think from this episode we can see that they're definitely moving forward with her character. She's speaking more. She's not just, when people say something to her, just standing there quietly and giving them a look, that she's engaging in conversation and really being an active member of this group. And I really appreciated that probably more than anything in this episode.
And I think, if I remember correctly, both episodes where we've liked her characterization, this one and the one where they found Morgan, they were both written by Scott Gimple, the guy who will take over as showrunner for season 4. So I think it's a good sign that we like his characterization of her.
Yeah, this is true. I did notice it was Scott Gimple, and I was very happy with the result.
These scenes with Denegura and Michael Rooker are all gold too. I thought every one of them. The one you're talking about where he uses her sword and she just kind of stands there and watches him do it. The scene that comes up where he's hot wiring the car. I thought they really worked well off each other. They're just such contrasting characters.
Yeah, Gimple did a good job in the writing in terms of it's still Merle. This is not a different character. He's not acting out of left field, but they're still doing their best to humanize him within the puzzle pieces they've been given that we've been shown so far on screen, and also humanizing Michonne a lot more than we've seen, but still staying within that archetype and playing them off of each other. I think did wonders for both characters, honestly. So as they're going along down the road, Merle keeps looking at different cars. Finally, he finds one that he can break into. So he ties Michonne up to a support post on a porch with the wire, and he breaks into a car and he starts hot wiring it because, of course, Merle would know how to do that. And the moment he gets it started, the car alarm goes off, and so he goes to work on trying to stop the car alarm, and that's attracting zombies all over the place. So, like we said, Michonne is still tied up with the wire to the post, so she's able to take out a few of them by kicking one down and then stomping its face in. There's another one that she garrots using the wire that she is tied up with. The whole time, Merle is just working away, not really paying attention to all the zombies coming in until one almost bites him. He comes up, he kills it, he sets her free, and they escape.
He can't hear her yelling for him because of the alarm. And was the radio on also?
I don't think the radio was on yet. That happens a little bit later.
Okay, but yeah, it was obviously loud enough that he couldn't hear. And I'm a big fan of that. What did you say? The garrote?
Yeah, she garrots it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that kill. That was kind of nice.
Yeah, and showing just how dangerous Michonne is. Even tied up, she can take care of herself.
I kind of got a Princess Leia Jabba the Hutt vibe off of that kill.
Yes, very much so.
I love that Merle was able to hotwire a car with one hand.
Well, as he pointed out in The Talking Dead, he used his teeth also.
So they get in the car, they make their escape, and they continue to talk. And something I really liked, because all too often in these shows where two people have the information, one person doesn't, or two people have a conversation without another person, somebody gets the wrong idea, they believe everyone's out to get them, and so they're angry even though that wasn't what happened. And I say that to say that in this case, Merle is very clear that this was my idea. Rick, the governor offered Rick this deal, but Rick didn't have the stomach for it, so I'm doing it. So in other words, we won't have to deal next week with Michonne being all ticked off at Rick for something that he was kind of going to do, but he really decided against it. It was very clear from Merle, this is me, this is not Rick. And they go through this whole conversation where they discuss whether Merle, how many people Merle's killed, whether he killed people before the zombie apocalypse or before the governor, all these different things. He said he killed 16 people, and eventually Merle decides, you know what, I can't do this. He lets Michonne go. He gives her katana, and he says, pretty much don't follow me. I've got some stuff I got to do, and he drives off.
I was happy, I guess is the best word, that we saw this in Merle. It just worked for me, the scene, to see him come around, and it's like Daryl saw something in his brother the whole time, and this is the brother that Daryl loves. We finally get to see the Merle that Daryl knows, and I just liked it a lot. That he had some good in him. There's still good in him.
Well, and I think it's also interesting that we've seen this with Daryl because we've seen a lot more with Daryl. But Daryl puts on this front of, oh, I'm the big tough guy, don't mess with me. But underneath that, he loves kids. He's an old soul. He's a softie. And so it's nice to see that there's a lot of that with Merle too. Merle just puts up a much bigger, much stronger, much more obnoxious front. But there's still that. I don't know if softie is the right word, but there's still the humanity underneath there.
I rarely watch The Talking Dead, but I did last night for some reason.
It was a pretty good episode, I thought too.
And I don't watch it because I don't want to repeat anything that I might hear from that show on the show. That's why I don't watch it. But I will repeat something that Michael Rooker said. He said he feels like that's always been who Merle is. Deep down, he's always been that guy, but he just hasn't shown it. He's always hidden it for various reasons. And I tend to think that's probably been the case. My brother and I are very similar, so I would like to think that Merle and Daryl are very similar in some respects as well. And that having that core, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ethics.
Yeah, that core ethical way of living your life. Apparently they both have it. We just are now seeing it in Merle, and I really liked that.
They share a similar code, even if it's not the most popular one. It is similar, and they do try to live by it. So we have a short scene where Daryl, who, like I said, has been tracking them, finds Michonne. He basically sends her back to the prison and tells her, I'm still going after my brother, and like Merle told her, if I remember correctly, don't follow me. I've got this. So we catch up with Merle. He's sitting inside the car. He's outside a liquor store. He's drinking, I forget exactly which type of whiskey it was, but he's drinking whiskey, and he is listening to Motorhead, which is a very nice touch. And he's got the windows rolled down just enough so the zombies can hear it, and they start swarming the car, and he puts the car in drive, and he goes a few feet at a time, letting the zombies follow him. He eventually gets to the point where they're outside that barn where the governor and Rick met a few episodes ago, and he leads all the zombies right up to the group of people that are there. He bails out of the car, and all of a sudden, so Martinez, Ben, Alan, the governor, everybody else who's there, they hear this music, they go to investigate, they find the zombies, they start shooting him. Merle puts some of his tactical training, because remember, he was in the armed forces at some point, as we remember from his heat stroke ramblings on the roof back in season 1, and he puts that training into good use. He goes into one of the buildings, and he starts picking off the governor's people one by one, and even with some alcohol in him, we don't know how much, but even with some, he is an excellent shot. He takes down 3 or 4 people, I believe, before he finally sees the governor in his sights, and he doesn't miss, but Ben, Alan's son, steps right in front of the bullet, right at the wrong moment, and he gets taken down instead of the governor. The governor spots where the shooter is at, and Alan, the governor, Martinez, everybody converges on Merle.
I gotta say, for a redneck, Merle's a pretty smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
Causing all kind of commotion, gathering walkers around his car, going a few feet, stopping, letting them catch up. I could see him going, a couple of miles this way. It took him forever to get there, but, he's collected this huge herd. I thought that was a very smart tactic and way of doing it.
Well, I don't think Merle would be old enough probably to have fought in Vietnam, right?
I don't think the timeline is right for him to have been in Vietnam. Maybe first Iraq.
How old do you think Merle is?
It's hard
I know
to say.
Rooker's almost 60, I think.
Well,
I think he's in his 40s.
my 65, I think 65, 60, 68, 67-year-old uncle fought in Vietnam.
Well, my point was that even if he's not old enough to have fought in Vietnam, it certainly felt to me, at least from the Vietnam movies and TV shows I've seen, that he had learned some guerrilla tactics from people who had worked there, or not worked there, people who had fought there, whether or not they were still in the armed forces and trained him.
It's work. It ain't play. It's all work.
I understand, but it's they fought.
Yeah,
they didn't file paperwork too much, but it certainly felt like that guerrilla fighting style, using the environment to your advantage, that kind of thing.
I think it was like Brad said, really good tactics, and he was able to take out a lot of the governor's front guys. A lot of the guys who could shoot straight. They keep going out of the way to show us that Woodbury. A lot of the people that have guns don't really know how to use them, but Merle's able to take out some of the frontline guys here.
Yeah. So they're converging on Merle's location. He has to fight off a zombie, which attacks him, and that gives the governor and Martinez enough time to attack him. The governor starts, kicking the crap out of him, eventually bites off 2 of Merle's fingers on his one remaining hand and spits him out. And then Merle pretty much says, "You're gonna have to kill me because I am not gonna beg you. I am not coming back to your side. This is it, buddy." And the governor shoots him, and we cut the commercial.
And we didn't know exactly where he shot him either.
No, it wasn't even 100% clear if he had been shot.
Well, I would say that it was 100% clear that he would have been shot. I mean, we didn't see it, but what else? You know, the governor's not going to not miss when he's right there. So it's a given.
I agree, but from reading comic books, it's one of those things like there's no body, therefore no death, if you know what I mean.
Okay, true. I see that, but
I was waiting for a double cross.
I think the point he was making is the way the shot was as it went to commercial only showed the gun. It didn't show the bullet going in.
Right, and that's what I was saying. We didn't know where he got shot. You know, I assumed he got shot, but we didn't know where. But in my head, I thought Merle just died. Merle is dead. He just got shot in the brain. But as we find out later, that's not what happened.
Right. But before we get to that, Russ, who is our sponsor for this episode?
Our sponsor for the Walking Dead TV podcast is Discount Comic Book Service. That's DCBService.com, where you can save a boatload of money on your comics, trades, statues, hardcovers, trade paperbacks, t-shirts, all kinds of cool collectibles over there. They've got some great specials going on this month. You can get all the Marvel Now titles. If you're interested in what Marvel's been doing with reshuffling books and starting off with new creative teams, you can bundle all of those Marvel Now books for 50% off. So you can get them for a total of $74.79. That's all of the Marvel Now titles. All of the DC and Marvel trades and hardcovers for pre-order this month are 50% off. So that's a great deal. There's a lot of really good stuff this month in the trade and hardcover section if you're not into the monthly scene, as it were. You can also, if you're a frequent customer, get your previews digitally now. So instead of getting that big phone book shipped to you for $1.12, the same great price, you can get a digital copy that won't jack up your shipment if it happens to be late or early or whatever. You can still get your previews on time and then get your comics as you prefer to either wait till the last week of the month, depending on if you have monthly or bi-weekly shipping. Another thing you can do is if you link your Comixology account through DCBService.com, you can earn 5% of your digital comic purchases to DCBS, which will go count towards future orders. So if you're into the digital stuff and you want to, maybe there's a cool hardcover that comes out or a statue or some really cool Walking Dead paraphernalia, then you can parlay that 5% back towards that. So really, really good stuff. You can follow them at DCB Service and at InStock Trades on Twitter, where they have weekly deals and updates going on. So once again, that's DCBService.com. We thank them for their support of the Walking Dead TV podcast.
There's more than one Twitter?
There's many Twitter. It's their Twitters. Oh, don't forget the code. Use WD8 and save an extra 8% on your first order. Or if you haven't ordered in the last year.
Thank you very much, Russ.
And then you get Twitters about it. That you saved all this money.
On the internets.
The Facebooks, the Twitters.
So while all this is going on with Merle and the governor and the zombies, back at the prison, Glenn goes to Herschel, and he pulls out the pocket watch that Herschel had given him last season, and he says, when he gave this to me, I didn't really understand what it meant. I understood kind of, but I didn't realize the gravity of what this was. And now, after everything we've been through, I do. And he asks Herschel for permission to marry Maggie, and he says, we might only be alive another week, I don't know. We might die tomorrow, but I feel like I need to do this, and Herschel gives him his blessing.
That was a really cool scene. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I thought this was a cool scene too, Russ. I just really, these characters, we've grown so close over the course of the different seasons, and to see him, really understand the gravity of him trusting his daughter to him, and for him to come back to ask for her hand pretty much in the most old-fashioned way possible. I just thought it was really kind of touching and a good scene for both actors for sure.
I like the fact that Herschel smiled.
Yeah,
that was neat seeing that.
So the next time we see Glenn, he's out at the fences, and he's looking from zombie to zombie, and I don't know if this is how they did it in the comics, but I pretty quickly caught on to what he was doing. But he's going from zombie to zombie. He's looking at him really closely, on the other side of the fence until he finds one that works. And that zombie puts its hand up to the fence trying to get at him, and he cuts off 2 of its fingers. And again, they don't really show you what he's doing, but it's pretty easy to pick up on it. And then later on, he goes to Maggie, or Maggie comes to him. And one of them comes to the other and says, "Hey, Rick wants us in the main room. He's got something to tell us." And Glenn says, "But before we do that," they share a few words, and then he puts something in her hand. And he says, "Here," and she opens up her hand, and it's a diamond ring. And she says yes, and they hug and kiss, and we head back inside.
Shortest proposal ever.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk back and forth on the Facebook group, the Walking Dead TV podcast group, which you can find on Facebook. And some people liked it, some people didn't. I fell in the camp of, I thought it was awkward but cute. I thought it kind of worked for the characters, but other people wanted more. What did you guys think?
You just described Glenn, awkward but cute. That's why I thought. That's why I thought it worked for him. It just seemed like a very, like I said before, that didn't seem like a very Rick thing to do. This seemed like a very Glenn thing to do. He's not really. I don't know. It seemed fitting to me.
I was happy with the way they did it. I'm glad they didn't drag it out and make it mushy.
Yeah, given the environment, I think we're past that. And yeah, and he even made a point of saying it may only be for a week or a month or whatever. So I think he intentionally didn't want it to be this big, long, drawn out, official, mushy thing, because I think he knows in his heart that, look, we could do this and it's the right thing to do, and we'll know, when we go on to the next life or move on from this mortal coil, that we were husband and wife. But I think he's still very afraid that it's going to be very short lived.
If memory serves, I think how we as comic readers or even novel book readers, we have a 2-read pile, where we stack stuff up that we want to get to eventually.
Yes, sir.
I think, like I said, if memory serves, Glenn ran out to the to be burned pile of dead zombies and searched around until he found a ring.
In the book?
Yeah, I believe so.
Gotcha. And either way works. I like both of them. I also thought it was interesting that it was the same exact fingers that he cut off that the governor bit off of Merle. It was the pinky and ring finger of the left hand.
Yeah. Freaky.
A lot of flying fingers.
There was also a scene, it's not here in my synopsis, but I did want to call it out just because I thought it was a really nice scene. It happened earlier in the episode, and it was Herschel, Maggie, and Beth sitting around a table with Herschel reading from the Bible to them. And it was it had the feeling, kind of like a lot of this episode, like we said, of them knowing that they only have probably a day or two to live if things go down poorly. And it's kind of like him reading his daughters their last rites in a way, and it was kind of beautiful.
It really spoke to me to the spiritual core of that character. We've seen it in Herschel all along, going back to when he was introduced till now, and that's really, I think, what holds those three together is that spiritual core of family.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that scene a lot, but there's also another scene I wanted to bring up that you haven't touched on. It's earlier in the episode when Carol and Merle have a scene together, and she basically just point blank asks him, "Are you with us?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're in this prison." She says, "No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about location. I'm talking about, are you with us? Are you part of the group? Are you, against the governor like we are?" And I just thought that was a really cool scene, especially for Carol. And Merle even sums it up and saying, "You're not the same person I remember." And she's like, "No, I'm different. I've changed." I just thought that was a really cool scene for Carol because I don't think Carol gets enough of the spotlight sometimes, and I hope that changes in the future. But I just really like that one. That's just another scene that we weren't touched on, but I want to bring up.
She also had a great line at one point where it was kind of towards the end of the scene, I think, maybe the very last line, where he starts sassing her a little bit, and she basically tells him, "Shut the hell up, Merle." And it was just a nice, it was a strong moment for her, but it was also nice to see how she's gone from being physically, verbally, emotionally abused by her husband Ed to the strength of now, when a very similar character in terms of tone and physical imposition, starts getting in her physical space. She is not afraid to tell them, "I am having no part of this," and stand her ground. And it was another nice moment for that character. She's quickly becoming a standout.
Yeah, it's like Merle says, like you say, you're not the same shrinking violet that I left behind or whatever, and then she proves it.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same scene.
You know, it's weird. The Carol and Andrea characters, I have the opposite reaction to them in the TV show versus the comic book. You know, Carol was not somebody in the comic book that I particularly was impressed with. And,
I would go as far as to call her annoying in the comic book.
Yeah,
What little time she was around.
yeah, and Andrea was just the opposite. You know, she continues to be one of my favorite characters in the book. And it's not that way on the TV show. I like Andrea. I beg your pardon. I like Carol like infinitely more than I like Andrea in the show. It's pretty crazy.
So getting back to where we were with Glenn and Maggie, he proposes. She says yes, and they head over to hear what Rick had to say to them. And so Rick, gathers the whole group who's there, and he tells them what happened. The governor offered, you give us Michonne, we'll let you go free. And he said he was going to go through with it, but he changed his mind. He lets them know that Merle took Michonne on his own, and Daryl wants to stop him. And Rick says he knows he was wrong to not tell them. He knows he was wrong to even consider it, and he apologizes. And he says it wasn't his call to make a loan. And he calls back to the end of season 2 where he says basically, remember last year when I told you, from now on to make the decisions. He says, we can't go about that. He says, this group is the greater good. I can't make decisions for the greater good. The greater good has to make decisions for themselves. And they're still alive, and he's not going to be their governor. They're going to be the greater good from now on, and they're going to make decisions together. And then he tells them they're going to vote about staying and fighting or leaving the prison altogether, and then he leaves the group to make their decision. And as he goes outside to stand watch for a while, he sees Michonne approaching the prison fence and appears very happy to see her. And then we catch up with Daryl. And Daryl arrives at the barn, at the grain silos where everything went down, and he finds dead bodies, he finds zombies eating the dead bodies, and then he sees Ben's body and a zombie that is eating it. And then the zombie looks up, and we get a really close-up shot of Merle's eyes, and he's clearly a zombie. And Merle approaches Daryl, who starts crying. He pushes his brother away a few times, and then he jumps on him, he knocks him down, and he stabs him in the head over and over, still crying. And then he falls back on his back on the ground, and he just weeps for what he had to do, what happened to his brother. It's a very cathartic moment. It's very sad, but he got to put his brother out of his misery for the last time, and that is how we end the episode.
Did anybody else think that Merle decomposed really quickly?
He didn't look that decomposed. His eyes were yellow, but I don't know.
He looked like he had some prosthetics going on. I mean, his face was like sunken in, his eyes were sunken in. I don't know. He just looked like he was decomposing pretty quickly. I mean, not a huge deal, but just
That's because he
something
was already dead inside, man.
I thought that same thing, Russell, but I'm not going to let that bug me.
Yeah,
I liked the scene too much to let that bug me.
Oh, it was a great scene.
Yeah.
Excellent scene. You know what bothered me more was with when Shane got shot and turned. He looked like he decomposed really quickly for being dead for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And here, at least, it could have been a couple hours because he was in a car, so.
Right. But yeah, it just seemed kind of weird. Like that we've seen zombies that are that have been dead for months and months and months, and some of them seem as decomposed or not much more decomposed than Merle.
Like I said, this is when my DVR cut away to channel 8 or something, like ABC, or I was like, what the heck? So it took me a while to stop the recording. You know how DVRs are; they don't just do what you want all the time. And so, like I said, 2 hours later, I had to check back in, and I ended up watching that scene probably 5 times, just rewinding the whole thing and watching Norman Reedus. Fine bit of acting on both of their parts. It's always funny, not funny, but interesting to see a character that you've been used to have to act like a zombie. We saw Shane for so long do his thing, and then now we have to see him as a zombie. And here we are watching Merle do the same thing. And I think I think they both really handled the scene well. And when you're a zombie, you're gonna act one way, right? You're gonna act like a zombie, but you can either be a dumb zombie or a good zombie. And I felt that Merle, ended up being a cool zombie. And Daryl, God bless him, he was just. It's hard, in my opinion. It's hard to. I've seen people act like they're sad or cry or whatever, and you can just tell they're like faking it. But this guy really looked torn up to me. I was just really impressed with the scene.
And it was really well directed as well. This was another Greg Nicotero episode. This scene, the marriage proposal scene, the fight scenes with Merle and Michonne killing the zombies, it all looked really great. In addition to the fine acting.
One of the things that impressed me with the scene is that he took out Merle, Daryl did, and because it was his job to do, it's what he had to do. But you could tell he was definitely working out some aggression. It was like this is for all the times you kicked me in the head. This is for all the times you were mean and nasty to me. But yet at the same time he's broken up because his brother did take care of him and went out of his way in a lot of instances to take care of him, but also abused him. So it was just this weird dichotomy of sadness and aggression that was going on.
I also got this real big sense of almost a wordless. Why did you leave me? Why did you leave me? Why'd you have to go away? In that stabbing as well. Like everybody said, fantastically acted.
So it looks like I'm 1 for 1 on my death predictions.
Yes, sir. Well, actually, did you predict Ben was going to die?
No, I don't.
No, you said Tyrese and Sasha.
Who's Sasha?
His sister.
No, I didn't say Tyrese. I said Tyrese's sister, which is Sasha. I didn't know her name at the time.
Gotcha.
So, no, Ben was not one that I predicted. So I'm watching the Twitter right after the scene, and there was a lot of Dixon's Vixens that were pretty upset. And a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, a lot of crying themselves to sleep, apparently. But I think if this character was going to go out, he went out in the perfect way.
He went down swinging, so to speak.
He redeemed himself, and then the only person really that had the right to finish the job, his brother, ended up doing it. And I think it was very respectful of the character.
And something they talked about on Talking Dead, but we've also seen in the show, was going back a few scenes to when the governor shot him. If you remember back at the beginning of this season, when we were introduced to Woodbury, their whole thing was, we do not leave our own as zombies. If one of our own goes down, we put them out of their misery. We do not let this happen to them. And this was the governor totally going against that by purposely killing Merle in a way that would leave him as a zombie.
Yep, just goes right along with the man he's turning out to be.
Oh, yeah.
Since I brought up Twitter, let's go ahead and get some Buster ratings out of the way here. Carl Hooker, Mr. Hooker, says 5 out of 5 governor blocking Benz. Only downside is the loss of a great actor from the series. Amazing episode. I would agree with that. MILF Squared says says 5 Busters. This episode crushed me completely. Too Short 35 says 10. It deserves a 10. Double Busters. Sean 3K says 5 Merle. I ain't going to begs. Donnie Salvo, our good buddy Donnie Salvo, says, I give it 4.5 zombie rednecks. Rest in peace, Merle. That's all the Twitters.
What did our friends on Facebook have to say?
Well, everybody seemed to really enjoy this episode. A lot of 4, 4.5, and 5 out of 5s. Roger Austin, 4 out of 5 zombified Merles. 4.5 Merle fingers from Heather Campbell Finch. 5 finger looking good Governor Finger Snacks out of 5 from Michael Santana. Death of the Dictatorship, good call. 4 out of 5 boxes of Kleenex from Liz Hill. We got Harold Turk, 4.5 out of 5 Pied Piper of Zombies for me. Leslie Johnson, 4.75. Lots of tears in this one for me, and not just at the end. Terry Bernard, 4.5 out of 5. I thought this episode was great, and he was skeptical about Scott Gimple taking over after seeing this last couple of episodes that he had written. He's pretty excited about him being the new showrunner. I have to echo that too. I think Gimple's episodes have been really impressive so far. far. So I'm hoping for good things in the new season. Mike Jones 4 spinner rims out of 5. Brian Arnold gave it 5 zombie wedding rings out of 5. Cody Hinkle gave it 3.5 busters. Decent episode with emotional ending. I think I'll enjoy it more on a rewatch since the season's on Blu-ray and or marathon. We got Everard Santa Marina 4.5 out of 5 busters. We had a lot of people really enjoyed this one. The lowest I see here is a 3.5. One of the people gave it a 3.5 was Rob Toll. Yeah, but most of the scores are right around 4, 4.5, and 5. If you'd like to be part of our Facebook group, the Walking Dead TV podcast group, you're certainly invited to do so. We have a lot of cool discussions and little news tidbits as the weeks go on, and it's a lot of good talk there, so check that out.
Jim, go ahead and give us your busters.
I give this one a 4.5. I really liked it. I had some weird moments that was very similar to what Rusty brought up as far as Rick even struggling all that much with the idea of giving Michonne to the governor in exchange for the prisoner's safety. I just I don't really see Rick. Russ made a very good point. Rick's smarter than that. At least the Rick I know anyway. But other than that, I thought it was a really strong episode. If Merle had to go out, this is a great way for him to go out. And it's always I give it an extra 0.5 because they played Motorhead. I thought it was really strong, and it's really amped me up for the season finale. I can't wait to see what goes down. So 4.5.
I'm going to give this a 4.25. I really did enjoy it. I had a couple of those logic problems at the beginning, a couple of little things that bothered me, but in general, very solid, and the ending was fantastic, so 4.25.
I'll give it 4. I thought it was a really, really solid episode. I think the things that worked well definitely outweighed in a big way the things that I had issues with. Mainly, like Jim and I talked about, the Rick giving up Michonne. I thought the tracking thing was a little hokey. Like when Daryl went in that part of the prison and was like, oh, there's a scuffle and somebody was dragged off. I was like, it seemed like Daryl's tracking skills are so amped up, it's almost like superhuman in a way. But it just a little pet peeve. And then the whole bit with why Merle put the cloth over Michonne's head, especially when she knew where he was. It's like no secret as to where he was taking her. And then we see her again and it's off. So it just seemed kind of weird. But again, those are just minor things. The bit with Maggie and Glenn was just fantastic. And then the Dixon Brothers endings was really, really solid. So 4 for me.
I'm gonna give it 4.5 finger snacks. I really liked it. Not enough buckets of blood for me. Like I said, should have been more death because I think we're gonna be on death overload next episode. But that's fine. Sometimes those are the best ones when it's just all hell breaking loose. So yeah, I'm ready for next week. I can't wait. Is it Sunday yet?
Almost.
What's Aaron, our buddy Aaron, have to say?
Aaron says, hey guys, I have some summarized thoughts of this week's episode, This Sorrowful Life. It started off on some shaky footing to get Merle and Michonne on the road together, but the episode definitely got better as it went along. While Merle hasn't been a favorite character of mine, let alone one I was rooting for, this show did some fine work with sending him off. He hasn't been incredibly consistent in my eyes, but Rooker sold how he was written in this episode, making his pivotal moments work for the show. Having him say a line like, I can't just go back, worked just as well as watching him lure walkers to the governor's meeting point while blasting Motorhead. Merle's last stand was also quite effective in being an action sequence that didn't feel random. It had purpose and consequences, and it led to the well-handled final moments of the Dixon Brothers. I have more thoughts in the main review, but basically, to quote Mike Jones, I hope Rick stops seeing things and does more interesting stuff after the manslaughter that I assume will happen in the finale next week. 4 out of 5 busters for this week. Let's all hope for a strong finish. And of course, you can go to hhwlod.com or WalkingDeadTV.com to see Aaron's full written review, which is fantastic, and we always appreciate the work he puts into them every week. So thank you, Aaron.
I have a nameless voicemail concerning this episode, so let's play that.
Hi, last week's episode was heartbreaking. Merle was one of my favorite characters. I know he wasn't the best man, but, some of us could see the softness in him, and it finally came out last night. And he went out in a blaze of glory. He went out, standing up to Sam and saying, he was a great, great character. But I think he redeemed himself last night. And on a brighter note, Glenn cutting their finger off the walker, many fans, waiting for that, I'm a big fan of the comic book, and that was just amazing. But overall, it was just heartbreaking. Daryl, there's just no words. It was a great episode, and now I'm, terrified to find out what's going to happen next week. But I just thought I'd leave my opinion on it. Rest in peace, Merle. We love you.
I'll just say thank you for the voicemail, and it's nice to see that the episode worked so well for so many people, especially in those final moments. Well, I think that's it for this episode, but of course, stick around after we send it out if you want to hear the short synopsis of next week's episode. Of course, that'll be mildly spoilery, but not too much. And then, of course, maybe some bloopers at the end. So, until next week, you can send us a voicemail at 516-468-7912. That's 516-468-7912. Or an email, comments@walkingdeadtv.com. Check out hhwlod.com for all of our great shows, like Half Hour Wasted, Legion of Dudes, The BKD Black Box, and Out Now with Aaron and Abe. And all those shows can be found on Facebook as well. And of course, you can follow this show on Twitter at WDTV Podcast, or the network as a whole at HHWLOD_network. So until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, if you like to gamble, I tell you, I'm your man. You win some, lose some. It's all the same to me. The pleasure is to play. Makes no difference what you say. I don't share your greed. The only card I need is the Ace of Spades. Have a good week, everybody. So next week on The Walking Dead, like I said, this is very slightly spoilery, but the season finale for the season is entitled Welcome to the Tombs, which is a fantastic title, by the way. And the plot synopsis we have from AMC is Rick and the group have to seriously consider if the prison is worth defending as the governor's impending attack looms over their heads.
Did you guys see any of the previews?
I did. I saw the one of the governor and his men coming up to the prison, and then it cut away before you really see anything, but that's the only one I saw. Did you see anything different?
Yeah, there's just the normal preview that they show at the end of each episode.
Oh, that's true.
Week.
With a lot of explosions and gunfire and zombies.
But those put together, it leads the viewer to believe that perhaps the group actually did leave the prison. So it'll be interesting to figure out what happens.
Or they've set up an elaborate series of traps inside.
Yeah, right.
Which I would love to see, almost like a good guy version of Saw.
There's a bunch of cardboard cutouts that are set up of each member of the cast. So when they come through the middle, they just blow the whole thing up and watch from afar.
Same plot as Blazing Saddles.
Oh, is that? Dang it! I hate when I get those mixed up.
Let's not go to Camelot. It's a silly place. Anybody have any more predictions like we had last week for the season finale, or have we covered everything already?
I think Brad's Everybody Dies prediction is pretty elaborate.
They have to go out big, man. They just have to. If none of our main characters die, it's going to feel cheap. In a bloodbath like that, we're assuming there will be a bloodbath.
It was a firefight!
If they're actually going to go to war, like Rick says, people got to die. And it would be unrealistic for everybody in our cast to make it out of that.
I agree. I don't know that as many people as you predicted will die, but I agree. A lot of people need to die in this one.
Stuff's certainly going to blow up, I can tell you that much.
Andrew Lincoln, in an Entertainment Weekly article, said that 27 people will die in the finale.
Wow. Although the governor did have a lot of people with him, so.
True.
But still, even with that.
Yeah.
I think, and I talked about this before, but I'll reiterate it again. I think it's going to end on a true cliffhanger this season. That we're not going to get a complete resolution to this battle or whatever's going to happen. That there's going to be some high dramatic moment that's going to cut off and lead us to the next season. The only problem with doing that, though, and maybe a reason why they won't, is I'm sure Chandler Riggs is going to grow another foot and a beard probably over the hiatus, and it'll look really funky if no time is supposed to have passed, and he just looks older.
Have a good week, everybody.
Long.
It's coming up, Millhouse. I say it again.
Deja vu.
Or Vuja Day.
Or as the French say, this has happened before.
So Girl season 1 was awesome. I'm now halfway through season 2, loving it just as much. Have you guys seen any of it? I think we've had this conversation before.
No, I haven't seen it. Sorry.
The episode where her and her roommate go to a club high on cocaine is one of the funniest things I've seen in a while.
Cocaine is
Those girls are
hilarious.
funny. Yeah.
Cocaine is so funny.
But yeah, no, that's something completely unrelated. Never mind. I just remembered something that had nothing to do with Walking Dead, and I was going to share it, but then I realized this doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.